Hi students, welcome to lesson number 22, and today we are going to talk about the theories of city growth, and in this we will discuss about the central place theory and the concentric zone theory. Central place theory is a geographical theory. It is an attempt to explain the spatial arrangement, size and number of settlements. The theory was propounded by Walter Christaller, a German geographer in 1933. Who studied the settlement pattern. His basic assumption was that a given rural area supports an urban center which in turn serves the surrounding countryside. This theory focuses on those cities that may be called regional service centers. In the flat landscape of southern Germany, Christaller noticed that towns of a certain size were roughly equidistant. By examining and defining the functions of the settlement, structure and size of the hinterland, he found it possible to model the pattern of settlement location using geometric shapes. This lesson aims at introducing the students to the famous theories of city growth. Among them, central place theory and concentric zone theory are explained in detail in this lesson. Now, we will discuss about the central place theory, and we now understand what are the basic assumptions. Its assumptions are: to develop a theory, Christaller made the following assumptions. The major assumptions are: the surface of the ideal region would be flat and no physical barriers. Soil fertility would be universal. Population purchasing power is evenly distributed, similar purchasing power of all consumers, and consumers will patronize nearest market. All consumers have a similar purchasing power and demand for goods and services. There is excess profit, that is, there exists a perfect competition. Uniform transport network that permitted direct travel from each settlement to the other, and transport cost rises proportionately with the distance. Consumers visit the nearest central places that provide the function they demand. They minimize the distance to be travelled. Constant maximum distance or range for the sale of any goods or services produced in a town prevailed in all directions from the town centre. The entrepreneurs are economic men with aim on profit maximization. As people will prefer to visit the nearest center, suppliers will locate themselves as far away from each other as possible to maximize their market areas. The central place hierarchy as a closed system. Now, we will discuss about the terminologies related to central place, low order, high order, sphere of influence. A central place is a settlement which provides one or more services for the population living around it. Simple basic services like grocery, stores, etc. are said to be of low order, while specialized services such as universities are said to be of high order. Having a high order service implies there are low order services around it, but not vice versa. Settlements which provide low order services are said to be low order settlements. Settlements that provide high order services are said to be high order settlements. The sphere of influence is the area under influence of the central place. Now, we will understand the main concepts of central place theory. To assign different activities to this central place, Christaller introduced the concept of threshold and range of goods. Now, what is threshold? It establishes the level below which an insufficient number of consumers exists to support a specified type of activity. It refers to the minimum number of buyers or consumers that is required to make a commodity worthy. Now, what is range of goods? It is a maximum distance which a buyer or consumer will be willing to travel to obtain a particular commodity from the closest central place that provides that commodity. At some range from the center, the inconvenience of travel measured in time, cost and trouble will outweigh the value or the needs for the good. Christaller termed these central functions and the surrounding region a central place, which he stated would be located at the center of minimum aggregate travel. not only did he focus on the location and function of settlement, but also on the study of the network and organization of many settlements over there. He also assumes identical consumers distributed with uniform densities over an unbounded plane with equal accessibility from all points of the surrounding region and uniform purchasing power. Christaller determined that a hexagonal market area would require the least average distance for movement to the centers by consumers. He then assumed a hierarchy of settlement with a distant order of size. Now, we will try to understand what is hierarchy of settlement. Within the central place system, there are 5 sizes of communities. A hamlet is the smallest and is a rural community, which is too small to be considered a village. The rank order of central place is the first one, hamlet, which is fewest goods and services available. Second, it is village, which includes the region of the hamlet and some additional goods and services. Third, it is a town, which includes the region of the village and hamlet and provides one additional goods and services. Fourth, it is a city, which includes the region of the village, hamlet and town and provides additional goods and services. And the fifth, it is the regional capital or the metropolis. Here, each order contains a fixed number of K of the settlement. In Christopher model, K is assumed to be 7. That is, for each city, there will be 6 surrounding villages. The resulting distribution of this hierarchy of central place is a hexagonal pattern of high order cities with low order cities nested to these larger markets. Now we will understand how are the arrangements of central place are the settlements. As transport is equally easy in all directions, each central place will have a circular market as shown in the diagram. However, the circular shape of the market areas results in either unserved areas or overserved areas. To solve this problem, Christaller suggested the hexagonal shape of the market as shown in the diagram. Within a given area, there will be fewer higher order cities and towns in relation to low order villages and hamlets. For any given order, theoretically, the settlements will be equidistant from each other. The higher order settlements will be further apart than the lower order ones. Now, we will try to understand the principles in the arrangements of central place theory. Christaller attempts to realize retail business and services better. According to him, there are 3 K values, that is for market, transport and administration. The first, we will understand the marketing principle, that is K is equal to 3. Under the marketing principle, an urban settlement reveals consumer demand. Each consumer would try to be as close as possible to every level of hierarchy so as to minimize the amount of travelling for the consumer. Thus, the settlement of order will be surrounded by 6 other settlements of the next order. According to the marketing principle K is equal to 3, the market area of a high order, that is a place, that is the node, which occupies 1/3 of the market area of each of the consecutive lower size place which lies on its neighbor. The lower size nodes, 6 in number and second larger cycles, are located at the corner of a largest hexagon around low value, the high order settlement. Each high order settlements gets 1/3 of each satellite settlements, which are 6 in total. Thus, K is equal to 1 plus 6 into 1 by 3 is equal to 3. Thus, there is only one center of the highest order and number of centers at every below it increases by a factor of 3. Now, what is the transport principle? K is equal to 4. The transport principle states the distribution of central place is most favorable when as many places of concern or importance lie on one traffic route between 2 important towns, the route being established as straight and as cheap as possible. The other unimportant places may not be taken into cognizance. According to K is equal to 4 transport principle, the market area of a high order place includes a half of the market area of each of the 6 neighboring lower order places, as they are located on the edges of hexagons around the high order settlements. This generates a hierarchy of central places which results in the most efficient transport network. There are maximum central places possible located on the main transport routes connecting the high order center. The transportation principle involves the minimization of the length of roads connecting central places at all hierarchy levels. In this system, the central places are so located that the lower order centers are all located along the roads linking the higher order centers. This alignment of places along a road leads to minimization of road length. In the transport principle, a low order center is equidistant from 2 low order centers, that is 6 into half plus 1 is equal to 4. Thus, central places in transport principle produces a hierarchy organized in a K is equal to 4 arrangement in which central places are nested according to the rule of 4. This is termed as K is equal to 4 network principle. The number of settlements serving a central place decrease in hierarchy would be 1.4, 16, 64, 256 and so on. Now we understand the administrative principle, that is K is equal to 7. The market area for each of the higher order centers include the higher market are each of the 6 neighboring low order centers. This is because law and administration in theory do not exponentially decay with distance, but remain fully enforced up to the boundaries of the administrative unit in which it is being applied. This is efficient if market areas of the smaller settlements are completely enclosed within the market area of the larger settlements, since tributary areas cannot be split administratively. They must be allocated exclusively to a single high order place. Efficient administration is a control principle in this hierarchy. For the administrative principle, the numerical progression would be as 1, 7, 49, 393 and so on. Now we will try to understand the hierarchy of central places. Christaller suggested that the central places providing goods and services to the surrounding areas would form a hierarchy. A large number of widely distributed small places would provide lower order goods and services to regular widespread demand. There would be a smaller number of larger centers providing both lower order and higher order goods and services. Successive steps of the hierarchy would consist of larger central places providing even higher order goods and services. Now we will understand what are the limitations and criticism of central place theory. It has been criticized for the oversimplification of the real world. The positioning of the settlement is generally random and not every spaced, contrary to even spacing of settlements as suggested by Christaller. The hexagonal pattern is suited for theoretical development, but in the real world, many other complicated factors are at work. The concept of perfect competition is untrue, with some firms making more money than others. Points have been raised on hierarchy of central places, that central place is grouped into order, second, third and fourth, but these do not match with the theoretical expectations, as there is a definite and clear ranking of centers within each other. Now we will try to understand what are the applicability and uses of central place theory. It provides a rationale for selective location and efficient space and function. In terms of functional and behavioral dimension, it has drawn attention to country and inter-town interdependence. It encourages order in the spacing and interrelatedness of settlements. The central place theory seeks to analyze the functional and hierarchical orderliness in the settlements landscapes. Settlements vary in size, function and number, but the centralistic function is sought in the location, economies, social and administrative structure and their visible and not so visible form, and it is evident in the location of structure like church, community, halls or universities. The central place theory helps us to identify more clearly the place of role of settlement as a place of trade exchanging and the extent to which this has influenced the nature of the emerging settlement pattern in the region. The central place theory has been used as a guideline for the relocation policy, and this was incorporated as an integral part of the regional planning in Germany. Now, what is the applicability of central place theory in India? The central place theory of Christaller is applicable partially even to this day in countries of the developing world, including India, China and areas where primary occupations predominate. The theory, it is again emphasized, is normative in character. In country like India, where administrative hierarchy of settlement exists, its practical relevance and impact on daily life is obvious. Gram panchayats, which are rural in character, provide legal, economic, administrative and educational and health services to the adjoining hamlets, and smaller villages are central places of the lowest order. The administrative hierarchical system of India may differ, but the spacing of tehsils and district level centers conform to the theory. The overall difference may be due to wide gaps between the real and ideal world. India has 6 administrative hierarchy of settlements. They are the top national capital, followed by state capital, district headquarters, tehsil headquarters, block headquarters and at the bottom gram panchayats. Christaller's concept differ from the system in India. Theoretically, the ratio between the higher and lowest order settlement is expected to be 1:7, but in India it is 1:19 of districts to states, where gram panchayats per community development block may reach up to 40 in number. Also, the number of tehsils per district is over 6, and this corresponds to administrative principle quite closely. Again, from the theoretical point, the spacing between settlements of lower and higher order should increase by a factor of 2:6 in most cases. In India, this ratio is much higher. Moreover, the number and spacing between different hierarchical levels is far from the ideal thing. Now, we will try to understand what are the ecological organization of cities. Urban ecologists have attempted to formulate a set of theories concerning the ecological pattern of the city. In their effort to formulate systematic principles, they were aware of the fact that the scientific theories and generalization may not fit all the details of each individual city. Thus, concentrating an ideal type of ecological structure is not possible because the ecology of the city differs from country to region. 3 theories of urban ecology patterns or the ecological organization of cities have been the matter of interest or concern to sociologists. They are the concentric zone theory as formulated by Ernest Burgess, sector theory of city growth as developed by Homer Haidt, and multiple nuclear theory by C.D. Harris and Edward Ullman. Now, we will have a brief understanding of the concentric zone theory. Concentric zone model or Burgess model was developed by Ernest Burgess between 1925 to 1929. The model defines how different social groups are in a metropolitan area which are based on the socio-economic status of households and distance from central area or town. This model is based on the study of American cities. That is, Chicago City was studied, for which Burgess provided empirical evidences. According to this theory, Burgess asserts that cities expand outwardly from the center in a series of rings. He suggested that urban expansion causes a modern city to assume a pattern of concentric zone, each characterized by a typical land use. These zones are idealized concept, so no city conforms absolutely to this scheme. Physical barriers such as rivers, lakes and hills tend to distort the zonal pattern of a community. Lines of transportation such as railroads and automobile highways divide the zone into smaller sections. Now we will understand what are the different zones in the Burgess model or concentric zone model. Various researchers and scholars have debated over the number of zones in the Burgess concentric zone model. Some consider them to be 5, whereas some consider 6 zones to explain this urban land use model. The center is the oldest part of the city around which the city expands over time and the newest development comes on the edges. There are the different zones. The first zone, the zone 1, which consists of Central Business District, that is CBD. According to Burgess, the center, that is the innermost zone, comprises where the Central Business District is located and has highest land value. The area where skyscrapers, departments, stores, hotels, restaurants, theatres and motion picture houses are concentrated. The zone has tertiary activities and earns maximum economic returns. Another feature is the accessibility of the area because of the convergence and passing of transport networks through this part from surroundings and even far places in the city. This part has tall buildings and noticeably high density to maximize the returns from land. Commercial activity taking place in the area results in negligible residential activity in this zone. In Chicago, it is called the Loop, in New York, the Middletown and downtown areas, and in Pittsburgh, the Golden Triangle. In America, it occupies a relatively small portion of the entire area of the community. The CBD exerts a stronger influence on other parts of the city, especially the zone immediately surrounding it, that is the zone of transition. Zone 2, the transition zone. This is located adjacent and around the CBD and is continuously changing. That is, transition takes place, it being the immediate path of business and industrial expansion, it has an ephemeral character. The mixed residential and commercial use characterizes this zone. Another feature is the range of activities taking place like mixed land use, car parking, cafes, old buildings, etc. This zone of transition is considered to decay because of many old structures, as the buildings in transition zone were earlier used for factories and tenement housing blocks. This zone had a high population density when industrial activities were at their peak. Those residing in this zone were on the poorest segment and has the lowest housing condition due to immigrants and rural migrants, by unconventional folk and by social outcasts such as criminals and prostitutes. Now the zone 3, which consists of inner city and working class zone. This area is occupied for residential purpose and also known as inner city or inner suburbs. It consisted of houses built to accommodate factory workers but had better conditions than the transition zone. This area has a mix of new and old development and generally requires orderly redevelopment. People living in this zone are second generation immigrants, as many moves out of the transition zone to this zone whenever affordable. This zone is nearest to the working area with modest living condition, and this resulted in reduced commuting cost. Another interesting feature includes the large rental housing occupied by single workers. Now the zone 4, which consists of outer suburbs, middle class dwellers, white collar homes. This zone had bigger houses and new development occupied by the middle classes. Many of the homes are detached, and unlike single occupants of inner suburbs, families reside in these homes. Better facilities are available to the residents like parks, open spaces, shops, large gardens, but this comes at an increased commuting cost. Single family dwelling dominate this zone and mostly well-paid white collar workers live here. Now the zone 5, which consists of the commuter zone. This is the outer peripheral area and far from central business district. This resulted in highest commuting cost when compared with other zones. Significant commuting costs gave the name commuter zone to this part. People living in this part were highly income groups who could afford large houses, could pay commuting charges, had access to different transportation mode, enjoy modern facilities like shopping malls, etc., low-rise development, large gardens, less population density are some of the characteristics of this zone. Now we will understand the important feature of concentric zone model. The Burgess model considers the positive correlation between households' economic status and the distance from central business district. This is sometimes also referred to as concentric zone model or simply concentric model or concentric theory. Therefore, it implies that wealthy families are farther from the city center than the households which are less affluent. The central area has high density and the availability of land is scarce. Because of this more affluent segment of the society reside away from the city center where they can build larger houses. According to Burgess, the changing pattern of households brings for the process of innovation and succession in which the outward growth of the CBD involves the innovation of the neighboring residents, making them move towards, resulting in city expansion. As the city grew and developed over time, the CBD would exert pressure on the surrounding zone, that is the zone of transition. The process continues with each successive neighborhood moving further from the CBD. Burgess' work helped generate the bit rent curve, which states that the concentric circles are based on the amount that people will pay for the land. This value is based on the profits that are obtained from maintaining a business on that land. The center of the town will have the highest number of customers, so it is profitable for retail activities. Therefore, as the city expands, the group moves to the neighboring residential areas, making the wealthy group move further away from the city center. Zone of transitions are important part of the Burgess model as they are very active and change of people and activities takes place constantly. Now, it is necessary to understand what are the limitations and criticism of concentric zone model. Burgess concentric zone model is one of the simplest models. This model interprets for the economic forces which determines development and study the patterns present at the time of the study. But with the passage of time and process of evolution, urban areas grew more complex and this model cannot define the development of existing cities. Some of the limitations and the criticism include, such as, Burgess' model is too simple and static. The model was developed for American cities and has limited applicability outside America. The relevance of this model decreased over time with the advancement in the mode of transportation. Mass transit vehicles, motor vehicles, cars changed the way people commute. Accordingly, their preference for living in a particular zone changed. It does not consider the effect of political forces and the restrictions imposed by the government for the improvement of living conditions. It is also ignorant to the process of redevelopment. In this unit, we have studied about the various theories of city growth. Each theory is unique. The center place theory describes about the spatial arrangement, size and number of settlements, and the theory focuses on those cities that may be called regional service centers and where the location of these cities tends to be at the most accessible position in the service region. Apart from this, the sociologists were interested in ecological transition or organization of cities, which include concentric zone theory, sector theory and multiple nuclear theory. Each theory, in a sense, an ideal construct, a set of generalization that has no reference to any particular city, but that it is in an abstraction representing a kind of generalized ecological profiles of cities. Each of these theories is concerned with ecological change and with the spatial patterns that have emerged from those changes. Each was developed based on the knowledge concerning the ecology and growth of American cities. In this unit, we discussed about center place theory and concentric zone theory. Remaining theories are explained in the following lesson.